Hi everyone, welcome back to Numerics with Nadia. In today's video, we're going to be comparing decimals. Our objective for today is to be able to determine which of two or more decimals are greater than, less than, or equal to each other. In order to easily be able to differentiate these signs, we're going to use different colors. So for the less than sign, we'll use blue. For the greater than sign, we'll use orange. And for equal to, we'll use purple. So we'll do some practice with this through a few examples, and we'll also review this visually just to be able to get a good understanding of everything. If you haven't watched my foundational video and my intro video on what are decimals, please go through the decimal playlist and watch that one first, as that'll be a good video to watch before this one. So let's get into our first example. For number 1, we have 3.48 or 3 4800ths, and we're comparing that to 3.45 or 3 4500ths. So looking at our decimals, they both have a 3. So we're comparing our hundredths, and we have 48 hundredths compared to 45 hundredths. 48 is going to be greater than 45, right? So we'll fill that in with a greater than sign. All right, you guys, we're going to follow the same steps in comparing the rest of our examples. We'll get into number 2 now. For number 2, we have 8.06 or 8 600ths. We're comparing that to 8.10 or 8 1/10, or you can say 8 10 hundredths. So when we compare them, both of my decimals have an 8, right? So now we're comparing what comes after the decimal. We have 6 hundredths and 10 hundredths. Obviously, we know that 10 is greater than 6, right? So 8 6 hundredths would be less than 8 10 hundredths. All right, let's do number 3 now. So for our third example, we have 0.002 and 0.007. So the way we would say these, right, would be 2 hundredths and 7 hundredths. And now let's compare them. So they both start with 0, right? The second place, the 10th place is also 0. So we're comparing, like we said, 2 hundredths and 7 hundredths. And obviously we know that 7 hundredths would be greater, right? So 2 hundredths is less than 7 hundredths. Now let's move on to our last example of the day. For number 4, we have 3.4 compared to 3.40. The way that we would say these would be 3 4/10ths and 3 40 hundredths. Now looking at them, they both start with 3, right, in our ones place, and then they both have 4 in the tenths place, but the second one has a 0 in the hundredths place. That 0 doesn't mean anything. So a 0 that comes after a number doesn't mean anything. And we'll get into why in our next little example, and it'll be easier to see visually. But for our purposes for now, 3.4 is equal to 3.40, or 3 4/10ths is equal to 3 40 hundredths. So now let's go through things visually. As you can see here, we have to compare 0.2 and 0.20, or 2/10ths compared to 20 hundredths. Now when we look at these two diagrams, right, it's pretty easy to tell, just like in our last example, that they're equal. So this again goes to show that if a 0 comes after a decimal point, it doesn't change the meaning, and that as long as the tenths place or the hundredths place, depending on the problem, is the same, that the two decimals would be equal. All right, you guys, short video today, but I hope you enjoyed it. Thank you so much for watching. Don't forget to subscribe if you haven't already. Please like the video and feel free to comment if there's any other topics you'd like me to do a video on.